Well, as we shared a little bit earlier in the program, we have a great guest with us today, but dealing with a more serious topic. We have Angela Williams, who is the founder of Voice Today, and we're going to be talking about sexual abuse, specifically of children. And sadly, this is a topic that we hear way too much about in the news, but we're glad to have Angela to share with us today some things I think that are going to be helpful. Thank you for being with us on Spectrum.
I am just so delighted to be here to share this critical issue of how we are going to protect our children from child sexual abuse.
You know, honestly, here in Albuquerque, here in New Mexico, this has been in the headlines in recent weeks in a way that I think is probably disturbing to a lot of folks. But I know you're very passionate about ending this struggle, this problem, this really blight on society. Tell us why it's something that's so passionate for you.
Well, I myself am a survivor, and I have had a long journey. Actually, at the end of my rope at age 17, I was barefoot, wearing just a t-shirt, as I climbed to the top of the Talmadge Bridge and looked over into black swirling waters of the river and just began to cry hysterically because I didn't have the courage to throw myself off that bridge. I smelled like vomit because I had just taken a combination of sleeping pills and vodka to try to kill myself, and did not know what I was going to do. My body rejected the poison, and I couldn't go home and face being raped and beaten again by my stepfather. I am 1 in 4 women in America. I was physically and sexually abused as a child. I have a very important message in the voice movement for the world. It's happened to so many, 42 million survivors. And my mission is to make sure that no child is ever sexually abused again. And there's so much that we need to do, and especially God's people need to rise up and do to protect our children.
Well, you know, the number you said is 1 in 4. I'm sure it's even higher, because I'm sure there's a lot of women, children living out there that have never admitted.
Well, let me share with you that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys, we tend to always kind of forget the men, the boys and the men. Only 1 in 10 ever tell. And 93% of the time, it's someone the child knows, loves, and trusts. So there's a great challenge here when that is a family member, when that is an extended family member, when that is a notable part of the community, perhaps a pastor or a teacher or a coach, that they suffer in silence. So you are absolutely correct.
Wow.
And the number that you share is obviously bad enough. I mean, I've heard the statistics vary even higher, like you said. So it's a tragedy when we're dealing with this type of thing and it's being repeated and repeated and repeated. I think that brings us to probably the obvious question is, why is society in denial and struggling that this isn't a bigger problem? I mean, it's a huge problem, but why do we seem to not be able to get our hands around stopping it?
Well, I don't even think it's a pandemic anymore. I mean, an epidemic. I think it's a pandemic. I think we're at pandemic proportions. Our society is in denial. Our society wants to fight this battle with their hands over their ears and their eyes. Survivors don't get justice in the criminal court system. Survivors don't get justice in the civil court system because it is so close to a family, 93% of the time. Then there's great reluctancy to call law enforcement on grandfather, uncle, brother. Sometimes that perpetrator is the financial breadwinner of the family, and so there's some big decisions that have to happen there. So they just silence the child. I think that we as a society have to all take responsibility for this. And I think as a parent, when you go into that place of denial, you don't want to take responsibility that you let this happen, that you either intentionally or inadvertently let your child be violated in such a way. And I think for people who don't have any concept of child sexual abuse or any experience, I think that's just such a difficult thing to accept. You know, a 4-month-old has just been killed here in Albuquerque. How can we even get our heads and our arms around? And it's just such a stigmatized and taboo subject that we can't deal with it. We can't face it. And we have to have major reform in this country. We need our court systems reformed. We need our laws reformed. We need really the protection of children to be priority, and that's what the voice movement is all about.
Well, when it's all around us, maybe a family member, a coach, who can you trust? How do we keep our kids safe?
Well, I have a great opportunity to share with you today some of the teachings of Voice Today and how we do keep them safe. And that's in an acronym called SAFE, S-A-F-E. So I'm going to go through that acronym with you really fast.
Okay.
SAFE stands for S is to speak. We as adults have got to begin to speak about how we are failing our children, and then we've got to begin to speak to our children to make them understand that not everyone in their life is safe, and that there may be someone that would take advantage of them or make a wrong decision, a bad decision, and that they are going to have to speak up and tell you. A is for ask. We've got to start asking our children some really tough questions.
Right.
Has anyone ever touched your private parts? A great way to teach a child where off limits is just when you're dressing them in a swimsuit or at bath time to reinforce where their private parts are and that they have personal power to scream no. There's a great tool that we use at Voice Today, and it's just from the dollar store, and it's a microphone, and you can help a child get their no voice by screaming no and helping them practice it. So if this happens, what would you do?
Right.
F is following up. We have got to follow up if there is any type of suspicion. We've got to intervene, and that may mean calling law enforcement on a family member or friend, and that's where you have to have the courage. That's where the rubber meets the road. Is following up. And E is education. We've got to educate ourselves as adults.
Right.
We've got to educate ourselves on how to predict and prevent child sexual abuse. And then we've got to educate our children. And we've got to give them good tools. We teach them to drop and roll out of a fire. Look both ways when they cross the street. But we don't teach them what to do when they're threatened with the risk of sexual abuse. We don't even really teach them about personal boundaries and personal power. This is another great tool. Everybody has a hula hoop. So it's great to just share with your child, in this hula hoop is your private space. This is your personal boundary. And if anyone comes in this space, I give you permission, I give you the right to scream no. To run, we teach at Voice Today, to run out of the situation and to tell until someone believes you.
Exactly.
You see, children don't have the words, children don't know what to say. So we could even give them a crayon and a piece of paper so they could begin to even draw what was uncomfortable. How did it feel? Can you tell me where you were? Can you tell me who it was? So we can give them another opportunity to communicate. And education is also so important. Perpetrators keep children silenced. We said the quote, 1 in 10, only 1 in 10 tell. So what we have to do with children is we have to teach them that no one is to ever tell you to keep a secret from me, and the difference between a secret and a surprise. So when you're going to a birthday party and you're wrapping a present, at Christmas time when you're wrapping a present, there again, that's another wonderful teachable moment that we can explain to our children. Surprises reveal, secrets conceal. And you can't keep a secret from me. So I just wanted to build conversations in homes, in your viewers' homes today, that they can begin to help educate, help protect, help layer conversations. Take that angst, take that discomfort off of the conversation of protecting our children.
Those are great examples and great tools. That's awesome.
When you're dealing with the population numbers that you talked about, Angela, that maybe as many as 1 in 4 ladies, 1 in 6 men have already encountered this type of abuse, what do you say to somebody? You said that you yourself are a person who's survived this. What do you say to help somebody become a survivor?
There are several phases, and it doesn't happen overnight. I was sexually abused for 14 years. And I talk about this in my book, From Sorrows to Sapphires. I'm very open and honest about the struggles, about the little girl and how she survived and the struggles. And I think there are stages. I think we are a victim. We are a victim of a very violent crime that society really doesn't know how to address or how to deal with or what to say to even give you compassion. So we have to accept that people inadvertently just don't know what to say and don't know how to receive any type of disclosure. So there's a season that you are a victim. You are a victim from the violent crime. Child sexual abuse, it could last for years, but I tell survivors if you were violated for 10 seconds, your innocence was taken, your voice was taken, so don't diminish that. That is still affect and impacting your life. So there's a season that you are a victim, and then there's a season where you're a survivor. And during that survivor time, sometimes there are a lot of bad decisions, unhealthy decisions. Maybe there's drug and alcohol addiction, depression, eating disorders. A lot of these social ills are rooted in child sexual abuse. Right. What we at Voice Today want to do is we want to help survivors break their silence. We want to help survivors get their voice. And we want to help survivors move from that place of being a victim to a survivor to a victor. Awesome. And the Voice movement is about empowering them. Empowering God's people to stand up with courage, empowering them to come along and let's protect the next generation of children.
You know why, Angela, you've shared so much good information with us, and I'm sure that a lot of folks watching today would like to find out more. There's a great website, information, contact point on the screen. We have to break away, but thank you so much for telling us about the things that you're involved with.
I'm excited to be here, and voicetoday.org, there's lots of resources to help with this issue. And together, I just invite your viewers to join the Voice movement to help us protect the next generation of children.
Thank you.
Thank you.